Welcome to Matters Podcast, where we have unfiltered conversations about the that really matters.
Welcome to Shit Matters Podcast. I'm your co-host, Michael Burris, alongside my brothers Josh, Brandon, and Kenny. We have a very, very special guest with us today, Dr. Bianca Picardo. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi.
I will say cheers, but
thanks.
cheers.
Thanks. I cheers with some water.
I got water too. It's okay.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.
But thank you for joining with us. Bianca, before we get started, can you give people a little intro of who you are? I know she is a CEO as well of a pretty large organization. So walk people through your background, where you're from, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. So I am super excited to be here. This is awesome. Thanks for having me. I grew up in a small town called Souderton, Pennsylvania. And from there, I then branched out to more of the Plymouth Meeting, King of Prussia area. And I have a pretty extensive background. I, played Division I basketball, which was, where my beginning of the journey started, right? And from there, I had a career-ending injury, which transitioned my career into film, where I went and pursued a film and television degree. And that's when I really started my own company. I was trying to make money while I was in film school. And I started a company making small videos and designing resumes and just doing whatever I could while living in Manhattan and New York to make some money. And from there, I just realized oh, wow, this is my passion. I've always had a passion for basketball. That was my identity. But in the back of my head, I always knew if that didn't work out, I was good at other things. I had other things that I wanted to do with my life. So, one thing led to another. And I was fortunate to, then receive a master's degree and where I got my first corporate job. And while I was working full time, I just, built my business up and continued to just chug away at it. And I'm fortunate now, 6 years in, we service clients in several different industries, about 14 plus, I believe. And we really focus on social media, marketing, even home design, right? We have a breadth of services that extend well just beyond that, but even to just business consulting. And I just received my doctorate degree in artificial intelligence. So now I've been able to add that into the services that we offer and just do a little bit more consulting and, figuring out how to kind of implement that in my business. Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, she says she's Wonder Woman. If you
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Keep it short, right?
Keep it short. Keep it simple. Yeah. I am Wonder Woman. I am awesome. But also, too, you mentioned you play basketball. I know you're from Philly.
Yeah.
Sorry for the loss last night. RIP. Go Steelers, the best team in Pennsylvania.
Don't do my guy Jalen Hurts like that.
Don't ever. But you said a lot there. So you have a lot going on. You have created a lot. You've grown a lot. But I'm sure within that ascension, there was some turmoil, some challenges as well, right?
Sure.
So walk us through that a little bit, right? As you were beginning to find yourself, navigating to creating your organizations, expanding your organizations, how did you handle the challenges of growing? How did you handle balancing time, etc.?
Yeah, it's kind of funny you asked that. And if my mom is listening, she's probably going to start shaking her head soon. But, when I decided to leave a Division I scholarship, that's really when I felt like I spread my wings and started to fly. I remember calling my mom and I'm like, look, injury after injury, I'm sick of this. I'm good at other things. There's more to life than basketball. I'm going to film school. And the first thing she said to me was, okay, that sounds great, but how are you ever going to make any money? Right. And I remember this conversation. I was walking across the street and I was like, well, why don't you let me worry about that? Right. And she literally said to me, if you leave, you're on your own. Don't ask for help. I'm not helping you. You're walking away from a full ride. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. Right. And I remember I sat on that conversation and I was scared. I'm like, damn, if I really leave, I have no backup plan, none. So I took a chance. I said, you know what? I'm tired of sitting at practices, just being hurt, not able to play. and this is miserable for me. Like, I don't want to do this. And I took a leap. I left. My mom was livid, right? And I applied to 33 schools because I had no idea where I was going to get accepted, whether it was for business, for film. I remember I called her and I told her, I was like, look, I'm done. I applied to NYU for film school. And she's like, you know, there's a 7% acceptance rate. Like, you better have a backup plan. I'm like, doesn't matter. Like, and in the back of my head, I'm like, well, good thing I applied to 32 other schools, right? I'm like thinking like, you know, right in my head. But it was just a moment for me where, you know, I really had to just step into my own and like stand on my own 2 feet and just like trust and follow my heart that I knew that this was the right move for me. And I think it's interesting, even as a parent, right? Like, you know, they always want to be supportive, and my mom is like my rock. But looking back, I mean, that's really when I just broke off and I realized, okay, if I can do this, I can do anything. And when I got there, I really started to come into my own and just realize, okay, there's more to life than basketball, right? Like, my identity is now shifting. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to do. And then kind of one thing led to another. But it was not easy. I mean, just walking away from something you've done your entire life and that you love, right? I mean, I loved basketball. It brought me so many of my, you know, friendships, a lot of memories. It took me all over the world. I was fortunate for that experience. But, you know, life changes and it adjusts and you kind of grow with it. And I felt like that was a pivotal moment of just my life to just even show myself what I could do, you know? And from there, I think I just kind of got a taste of it. And I'm like, all right, I can keep going. I can keep doing this.
I like that.
I was going to say, you guys got pin drop silent.
I was trying to sit for a second. You know?
I was going to add, though, just like one thing to harp on, like, without kind of letting that pass by what you said, is like, people are all about, you know, taking the risk, taking the jump, but they kind of dabble their toes in the pool, right? They don't, they stick one foot in and there's always 1 foot behind. And when you talk to a lot of people, like, they have all these aspirations and dreams, and then you ask them if they went all in or not. And it's like, no, they just, you know, they looked at it, or they opened a book about it, or they did something like that. So I just wanted to commend you for, you know, taking the leap, knowing there was no plan B. But some things I kind of believe, like, when there is a plan B, it's almost like, I don't say you're going to fail, but almost like you're going to back out. It's a higher percentage, but you don't have something else to go back to. It forces you to kind of figure it the hell out like you did. So I just want to make that notion something that's very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. I think you made a really great point. And I think a lot of times, to your point, when there's a backup plan, people see it as like a plan B, right? And they're like, oh, that's my safety net. But there is something to be said for, you know, counting on yourself and double downing on yourself, but also making like good strategic choices, right? Like, you're not just making decisions that are maybe putting you in a situation where it might be hard to kind of crawl yourself back, right? For me, I thought, if I go and I fail, I'll just go play D3 basketball somewhere, right? I'll go play D2 basketball somewhere. You know, like, I could go back and go do that somewhere else. You know what I mean? If I really needed to. But just making strategic choices when you're jumping is so important. That way you're setting yourself up for success. But also, like, if you do kind of fall flat on your face, you're not really, you know, hurting yourself too bad. You know what I mean? Like, having some type of plan.
Yeah. I want to jump in here. First off, shout out Bucks County, represent.
Yes, you know it.
Sure.
I want to expand on the whole sports thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, just given it was a huge part of your life. What did sports teach you that kind of set you up for the business world, right? And taking some of these leaps. I mean, what were some of the biggest takeaways, you know, that carried over from your sports life?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I'm going to go with discipline, because let me tell you, D1 sports are no joke, right? When you love the game, it's 10 times easier, right? But I can't even begin to tell you how many times I was pushing sleds down a field thinking in my head, God, everybody pays for college. Like, do I really need to do this? Like, you know, there's those moments, right? Of just like doubt of like, I don't need to be doing this right now. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. It's 4:30 in the morning. It's freezing outside and I'm pushing 200 pounds down the field because someone rolled their eyes at practice. Like, you're like, this is crazy, because you start to kind of like think about it and you're like, wait, everybody has student loans, like I can do it, right? And the discipline, it just transferred over to business of just locking in. And even with my doctorate degree, right? I mean, just putting your head down and locking in, because the homework wasn't going to get done itself. I mean, we're doing it on an airplane, we're doing it in the middle of a locker room, right? Like you can get anything done anywhere if you like teach yourself how to lock in, right? If you have 30 minutes, you make the most of that 30 minutes. And it's definitely a skill that I acquired through playing sports, but it also helped me realize, like, if you want to get from here to here, this is what it's going to take, right? So when you make a decision, you know the amount of discipline that's going to go into having to get there, you know, and that you're not really fooling yourself, being like, oh, it won't be so bad. Like, no, it's going to suck. Like, you know, it's going to suck, but you can do it. You've done it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really like the biggest thing for me, is just the level of discipline.
Love it.
Do you feel like that discipline just came from sports, or do you feel like that you already had that discipline prior to sports? And where did you get that from?
Well, I think I just, you know, I lost my dad when I was 6. So he passed away from cancer. And one of the last things that he taught my brother and I was how to play basketball. And I remember one of like a fond memory of him was just playing outside, and he tied my brother and I's right arms behind our backs. And he would yell at us and be like, look, you guys are slow. If you're not left-handed, you're never going to make it. And I remember he's like, so just like your left hand's got to be better than your right hand, right? Well, I was naturally left-handed. So like I'm over here just like dribbling, having a good time. My brother's like, what the hell, Dad? Like this sucks, right? But you know, it just made me realize, like at a young age, like when he passed, that for me, it was like I was living life for 2 people, you know, and it was something that I connected to him on like a spiritual level. Like every time I got out there, every time I like got shots up, it was just really therapeutic for me. So I just locked in and got so attached to that sport. And that showed me a discipline of like, I'm going to be the best I could be at this sport, because I owe it to my dad to do that, right? He's not there at my games. My mom is at every single game, right? So you're almost like living life for 2 people. And so that discipline really like forced me to just, you know, those 6 a.m. practices, getting up, training multiple times a week, and then getting into that routine, and then like getting my body accustomed to working at that level. And it's really a mind game, right? It's really getting your mind ready. And that's why like I love Kobe so much, because people read his quotes and the things he says all the time, but it's so true. Like that Mamba mentality of like, I want this so badly, and I'm going to go after it, and I'm going to lock in, and I'm going to do everything I can to get there. Like there's something to that, right? And until you experience it and see success on the other side of it, you don't realize how much that discipline is like really propelling you to like the future life that you're chasing, you know?
I like that. And you talk about future life. So like, what does that future life look like?
Ooh, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm like at that point now where it's like, am I done with school forever? Am I like gonna settle down, have a family and have kids? Like what do you want? And I feel like I've kind of been like on this grind for probably the past decade. And now I'm kind of just like ready to chill. And I'm like, that's the truth. People are like, what's next? What's next? What's next? I'm like, can I just like chill for a second? You know, like, why do we always got to be chasing the next thing? Like I just climbed like 10 mountains, and now I need to like chill for a second, you know?
Yeah.
And so right now I've just been kind of like, you know, I started a garden, you know, I do things I've always wanted to do that I never had time for. I picked up a drill. Now I can drywall and do all these things in my house. It's like, yeah, I'm like, wow, like I don't need to hire someone for this. Like, this is great. Right. You know, so I've just been kind of doing things like that. I don't really have a plan for the first time. I really just feel like I'm kind of settling into just post-doctor life and not having homework and seeing my nieces and nephews and just trying to have fun a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Enjoy life.
I like that.
Yeah.
I want to go back if we can real fast.
Yeah.
First off, sorry about your loss of your father.
Thank you.
But I think when you talk about your mother earlier and how the way I heard it, she's one of your biggest naysayers.
Yeah.
So the dynamic of that, obviously losing one parent, her being your sole support and foundation in life from 6 years old until you began to your journey of leaving and starting your businesses, a lot of folks experience pushback on their dreams and pushback on what they want to do. It's even harder when it comes from your own family.
Mm-hmm.
How did you take that? How did you handle that? How did you respond to that? Obviously, you responded well because you kept pushing forward. But when you first initially received it, how did you take it?
Yeah, it's like a really good question because, my mom has always made me feel like none of my dreams were too big, right? She was like, you want to study abroad in Australia? Go, right? And she'd always pushed me to do that. But that pivotal moment that I talk about, when she was saying to me, even financially, like, look, like you're walking away from a full ride. Like, are you crazy? Right? Because like this is free college. Like people work their entire lives for this, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't have doubt in myself, right? Where I was like, maybe she's onto something, like I didn't have that doubt. And that's why I took that leap. And I think that's when I gained my mom's respect, right? I think that's when she started to see me come into my own to be like, all right, she's going to be okay. She's got this. But like, I'm glad that she followed her heart. And I think it's always good as a parent for them to just kind of play that devil's advocate and remind you like, hey, like this is a decision that you're going to make that you may not realize the repercussions of it at your age. Right. But my mom is always transparent and honest with me. And, she's my rock. I mean, at the end of the day, she's pushed me, in all the right ways. And we even push each other. I mean, there's things that I, even on a business level that, help her grow as well. And that bond just really started to come together. Like once I did leave basketball and I started my own company, right? Because we had a whole different connection at that point. So I can understand just the pushback that come from parents and just the fear that comes from like taking a leap and jumping on your own. But when you truly believe in yourself, it doesn't really matter where you land. You're going to figure it out. And I think that's something that I always try to convey to my friends, my peers, my colleagues and mentees. Like, if you really believe that this is what you want, you're never going to know until you take the leap and take the jump. If you go halfway, you're never going to get what you're looking for, So like I said before, making strategic choices and just understanding like where you're leaping to is important. And even in parents, there's people that, have parents that are like, look, I don't support anything you're doing, but there's still successful people out there, right? It comes down to you and how bad you want it, right? And making sure that you're doing what you can to get yourself to that next level. And I was fortunate to have my mom right by my side. I mean, she's like my best friend, I'm super grateful, for everything she's done, even as mom and dad, which is not an easy job by any means.
100%. 100%. Anybody got something else?
Yeah, I mean, I got a quick question. So the steps from going to get your doctorate to starting some of these businesses, I mean, where does this come from? Like, where does the innovation come from for you? Have you always been a creative person, right? I mean, I just feel like there's a big hurdle, right? When we're talking about accomplishing some of these life milestones, right? Yeah. So, I mean, where does it come from? I mean, the background of it.
I don't know. I mean, like, even as a kid, I was like, we joke about the lemonade stand, but like, I was so excited when I got $1 from somebody. I'm like, oh my God, they bought my lemonade. Like, I used to take those little iron-on beads and I would like make little pictures and then go out there and like sell them to people. Like, cause my mom was an entrepreneur. She was a businesswoman. My mom was like a boss. She still is. So I think just that model of daughter, mom of, okay, like, let me figure out how I can monetize this. It's always in my head. Okay, if this is a good idea, how can I monetize that? And it's a blessing and a curse because sometimes you just like want to chill and not make anything a business, right? You're just like, really, can we just go to Wawa? Can we just go to Wawa and leave? Like, think about like a convenience store concept. You know what I mean? Like,
shout out Wawa.
Shout out to Wawa. If you don't know what Wawa is, you're missing out. But yeah, I feel like it's my passion, just taking like a business problem or a world problem and then creating something to fix it or make it better. Like that is awesome. And just seeing people out there, even just using a product that you created or, coming up with a new marketing strategy from consulting advice, right? Just like helping people. There's something to be said for that, even just on the inside. And I'm fortunate, like all my clients, I feel like we connect on a business level too, but also like a personal level, right? Where we invest in each other's businesses, right? Like, I'm not going to give you advice on something that I wouldn't give to myself, you know what I mean? Or do for myself. So it's like a passion that comes from helping people and like seeing them succeed. And that just kind of makes you want it more. And then after that, it's kind of going. You get a taste you want to keep doing it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My mind
Yeah,
doesn't really off, but.
Yeah, now let's talk about Beach Eats. Like you found a need and then you created something. So kind of go over that. I don't know if everybody knows about it, but talk about that.
Yeah, so Beach Eats is a food delivery app that delivers food right to your beach chair at Cape May, New Jersey. And it's funny, actually. The business is now up for sale. So getting into that, COVID was tough times. My mom and I actually were sitting on the beach one day, and I remember I was just saying to her, like, damn, like I wish I could just get a hot dog delivered to me, right? Here, prime example, right? She's like, well, you should create an app for that. And I'm like, no, Mom, like I just literally wanted a hot dog. Like I didn't want to start a whole business. And she's like, well, if you don't do it, I'll do it. And then that kind of pissed me off a little because I know she would. You know what I mean? Like I knew, I'm like, damn, like once we leave this beach, like she's going to be looking that shit up and like trying to like, you know what I mean? So I started looking into it. I started doing research, and that's how Beach Eats really came about. And that was in 2018. And then, you know, we hit 2020 and the whole world changed. And after a while, I'm like, you know, the business is growing, it's doing well, but, you know, Picardo Studios is killing it too. And I'm like, I want to be on this side, you know? And I had to make a tough business choice to say, look, I learned what I learned. It was great, but now it's for somebody else to take and grow, you know? And I'm ready to expand my business in this direction. And this just kind of wasn't following where I was headed with my passion and my career. So, you know, we had a great run. But then COVID really hurt us. It was really tough. The beaches were closed. You know, you couldn't get to and from anywhere. And then I just kind of made a big business decision. That was probably one of my toughest, actually. You know, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something you build from scratch, and then you're like, damn, now I'm done. You know what I mean? Yeah. But my mentor, and I think this is important even for those listening, is knowing when to stop, right? And knowing when it's time. And it's hard, but to continue to pour money into something that, you know, might not actually give you the return you're looking for, you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be like, all right, today's the day, like it's over. You know what I mean? It was a good run. And that's why I think a lot of people, when they start companies, they get into financial trouble, right? So, you know, it's a good time. It's my baby, but yeah, it's up for sale. So if you want to, any of you want to buy it, you know, just let me know.
Hey, now we can have a conversation. But one, I think you mentioned making tough decisions.
Yeah.
I think for you and everybody make decisions differently, of course, different mindsets. You mentioned earlier your desire to do what you do and innovate and create things is to impact people. Would you say your ethos? Well, I want to assume this. What would you say is your ethos or your guiding principles in life and in business that impact the decisions that you make in life and in business?
Yeah, I always say to myself when I have to make a tough choice, like, what's the best for the most people, you know? And even in my own company, right? You know, it's my company, but I employ X amount of people, and that's putting food on their tables, their families, their children. I count their husbands, I count their kids, right? Because the decisions I make ultimately affect my team. And so, you know, it's so easy to think about yourself when you see the money rolling in, right? But you're not going to get there without the people that are going the extra mile for you when you don't even see it, you know? So for me, helping people, if I'm going somewhere, I'm bringing someone with me. If my friend has a business in flowers or balloons or whatever the hell she does, that's who I'm rocking with. I don't care where I'm going, what I'm doing, you know, supporting even just in your circle, right? And the businesses that they have. Kevin Hart says it all the time with their tequila businesses. They throw parties, they have their friends, just their friends' tequilas there, right? Like, why would they have other company tequilas there, right? And it's about investing in your circle. And so for me, I always try to think about that. I always try to say, like, how can I bring someone else with me, right? Or how can I help another person in my circle or somebody that I know in the business world? So I have a very giving personality. I love to help people. It makes me feel good, but it's also just rewarding to just see, how people can overcome challenges or even just, get to their dream just by having a little support from you, So like my guiding principles really are just thinking about what's the best for the most people. And, I try not to think about myself, because I wouldn't be where I am without my team,
100%.
I have a question to go off of that, Bianca.
Yeah.
So when it comes to leading a team and obviously a growing business like you have right now, was it difficult for you to grow in leadership and essentially pass things off and duplicate yourself into other people? Or was that an easy part of your business? Just speaking from business owner to business owner, like as you grow and your team grows and if you want to scale accordingly and scale to the size you want to, you have to duplicate yourself, you have to delegate. Is that an easy, did you grow into that? What was your 2 cents there?
Well, it's never easy. We'll start there. I think every business owner has this problem. If we could be everywhere, we would be billionaires. I always say that. But I hear what you're saying. I think it was a challenge for me in the beginning, but what I learned was, being clear on my communication and expectations, right? And, we think when we step into a professional environment that we're supposed to act like X, Y, Z because that's like the professional way, right? But I could tell you right now, if let's say I get a graphic that I hate, right? Me responding back, this isn't what I was looking for, isn't really going to help that other person, right? It's like, hey, look, this is an example. Here's what you did. Here's how we can get it to that next level. And there's like a lot of that coaching that happens early on in the beginning, and also not investing all your eggs in one basket, because let me tell you, my team is so agile. Like what one person can do, the other person can deliver, right? And I think that's important because I'm not just duplicating myself to another person where I'm beholden to them, right? I'm embedding my style, my brand, and the culture of my people, right? So when one person's lagging or one person's on vacation, there's 4 people that can step up. You know what I mean? And there's just that expectation and that stream of transparent communication, and having people on your team that can take that could take brutal honesty when something just isn't at the standard it's supposed to be at, right? And having them learn kind of what you're expecting. I can tell you right now, I don't remember the last time I looked at a graphic and there was a problem with it. I don't remember. I mean, it has to be over a year, because now, like, everybody kind of knows, right? And everybody, like, there's multiple eyes on projects, right? Where they're like, oh, maybe you should tweak that before I even see it. But again, that's investing in your team. That's having a good culture where people can be honest with each other and be like, hey, make these adjustments, do this, do that. So a lot of business owners struggle with not being able to duplicate themselves, especially when clients want to work directly with me. For me at a strategic level, I say, look, I appreciate that, but my team, we are all in one, right? Like you get me, you get that, vice versa. So, kind of starting at the beginning of the process, even when we're talking to clients and prospecting, helping them understand that like we operate in a team format. Like, yeah, of course I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, but they are conditioned to deliver the same high quality products that I would. And that's just trusting them. And that's really, coming with errors and problems, right? And trying to sift through them as they happen, right? I mean, they're not great. I'm sure even with owning your own gym, right? I mean, I'm sure you see things left and right, but that's also learning and teaching them and then kind of growing them as a leader, right? And as a person, even when there is a problem, like, hey, well, how would you handle it? You're coming to me as a business owner, but what would you do, right? And you're giving them real world experience that's ultimately going to help them grow in their personal careers, right? Which I also think is important.
Good answer.
Love that.
Yeah. Great answer. Question for you real quick.
Yeah.
And this is a little light. I'm gonna make it light real fast. I called you Wonder Woman, but in reality, if you could pick a superpower, what would it be?
My superpower? Oh, I would love to read someone's mind.
Really?
Oh my Lord. Yes. No, you know why? Because if you are in business, right? Let's just say in sales. Let's take relationships out of it. Relationships don't count, but business and sales. If I know what you're thinking, I know how to sell you. You know what I mean? Like if I knew what you were really thinking, and I kind of feel like 90% of the time I could figure it out by body language and like responses. But if I really knew what you were thinking, like how rich would you be? You know what I mean? Like I just think about that. Like, damn, if they think I'm like bullshitting right now, or I don't sound legitimate. I'm like, all right, I know how to tailor my sales pitch, right? Or, give them resources to reassure them I know what I'm doing, right? Like, I would love to be able to read people's mind. I would love
especially
that.
reading someone's mind like over the phone. I feel like in person, you kind of know what that other person is thinking, or like the body language tells a story. But over the phone, it's tough because that person can just have simple pauses, or like, you just never can read someone's mind over the phone.
Or text. Oh my God.
Text, for sure.
Yeah,
we have to say
everyone would probably be married.
For sure. We have to say LOL just to keep things light in a text message, because someone might take it wrong.
Definitely that superpower.
Hell yeah. All right, that was fun. That was fun. I had to ask that real quick. Now, to get serious again.
Yeah.
Any regrets? Any regrets in this journey you've been on?
You took my question.
I was going to say, you guys are really
Go ahead, Josh.
You got it.
Ask the question.
You got it. Go ahead.
Regrets?
Any regrets?
And only got to be just business.
Yeah, I was going to say, honestly, I probably have the worst taste in men, really. I mean, let's be real. You want to be real? Let's be real. Like the first thing I thought of, I'm like, damn, probably should have never dated that person. But no, I really think like professionally, I've had like a tough time with like dating in my personal life. And I think at pivotal moments where I needed to lock in and be disciplined, like I maybe got like distracted by, just some relationships in my life that, kind of pulled me away and out of focus. So I don't really regret anything. And I know everyone always says like, that's such a cliche answer, because I always grew from those situations. It made me who I am. Obviously we learn, but just being smarter, and growing up without a father, I think I had to learn that the hard way, and I realized coming into my late 20s, like, oh, wow, okay, these are some things I need to work on and, get like legitimate support with, right? Like getting a therapist, talking through some of that stuff that maybe I struggled with as a kid that, balance on and over into your relationships, which I think as an adult is your responsibility to work on, And so, again, I don't regret anything, but I do think, I wish I, could have gotten maybe some therapy or professional help earlier, so that maybe I would have made wiser choices and, maybe even just had better relationships and maybe even treated my partners better, vice versa, because I was able to work on some of those trauma things or things that I dealt with as a kid. So that's a consistent thing I'm trying to get better at and work on. And it's not easy, being an adult and going back to your childhood and uncovering a lot of those things that really changed your life, and it's hard to deal with all at once on top of everything else. So yeah, I would say I regret not getting help sooner. And I regret probably just, not really taking dating as seriously as I probably should have when I was younger.
That's real.
Yeah, some real shit right there.
Thank you for sharing.
That's some real shit right there.
I got another one. You can answer this either way, personally or professionally. A mentor gave me some really good advice early on, and he told me to get a board of directors. Try and get like an internal board of directors, either living or that are no longer living, but just and this could be, like you mentioned, Kobe Bryant, right? As a part of that board of directors, just kind of guiding you from afar. Who would be your like 3 to 4 people on your board of directors that have helped lead you from afar, kind of deal?
My dad, for sure, is number one in my head because he's not here, right? So I always think to myself, well, if your father was here, what would you think, right? And that just grounds me, really. You know what I mean? Because it just helps me like think about like a parent, right? And, my mom obviously is the greatest. And I always obviously bounce a lot of ideas off of her. But, I think about if my dad were here, what would he think? And then I'd say like my one best friend in the top of my head, he's been just like super supportive for me, but he and I are definitely the same person. And so having a male perspective on things, I feel like I'd add him in there too. Like, what would he think? What would he say? And that really helps level me too. And then I really would just say, I have a mentor that took a chance on me in corporate America. And it sounds crazy, but he was a chief at the time. And I was like a contractor just starting out. And I remember I set up a lunch with him and everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you doing talking to like a chief while you're a contractor? Like, you're out of your mind. And I was like, he's still a person, like, why can't I have lunch with this guy? And he really changed my life. Like, he is someone I always think of, like he walks in good faith. He's really spiritual. And so I always try to think in my head, like, okay, like, am I walking in good faith? Am I doing what's best? Am I living honestly and truthfully? Right. And every time I think of him, I think of that. So I'd say those three specifically. It kind of goes in order too. I always kind of go dad, best friend, him. And then I usually am able to like make a decision. But yeah, I'd say those three for sure.
Love it.
For sure.
Awesome.
One of them's probably going to listen to this and be like, is that me? I'm like, yeah.
His best friend is it?
Yeah, no. That's now we're talking cheat codes. That's cheat codes.
See. So you brought up faith, right?
Yeah, sure.
And spirituality and
Sure.
walking in good faith and those kind of things. So
yeah.
does that keep you does that keep you moving towards the true North Star? Does that keep you grounded? That's your foundation. Keep you what's the word I'm trying to find? Assured within these tumultuous times?
Yeah, I think, look, I mean, keeping it real, I think, I struggle with bad anxiety, right? I have terrible anxiety. This has definitely been the toughest year of my life by far. Panic attacks, whole nine. And what I think is really important is, people look at me and they watch my journey and they see me and they're like, how do you do all of that? Right? How do you do everything? And it makes me realize that, I need to be more vocal, that I'm like human too, and that I deal with the same shit that, everybody else deals with, right? Just because social media portrays it one way doesn't mean that, I'm not suffering or dealing with, things myself. So leaning on faith and God to like pull me through those moments have really, helped me, right? Because there's nothing you can do. I don't know if anyone has ever had a panic attack before or has really bad anxiety. When it's happening, like there's really nothing you can do other than ground yourself and just pray to God like that it passes soon, right? And that's really, I think, this year where I found my true faith, right? Where I'm like, all right, God's going to get me through this. And I'm doing a better job at being even more vocal, even on my social media about it. And just the responses from people, right? Of just saying like, hey, thanks for even just talking about this, right? Like, most people will say, oh, when you have anxiety, just pray. And it's so much more than that, right? It's just like trusting whatever that plan is, or if you're just, shedding into a new skin, whatever it is, like that's part of like God's plan for you. And like, this is the tough part and you're going to get through it. So lately, now more than ever, I'd say my faith is at its highest. But it took me a while to get here. I really, shied away from it for a long time until I realized like, okay, like this is part of the plan and I need to kind of embrace that. And it's not easy at all.
Did someone introduce you to that type of faith or did you kind of find that on your own?
My mom, I mean, she, really would like leaning on her, be like, Mom, I'm like really anxious today. I'm really having a tough time. And she's like, okay, like just like take a second, take a deep breath, like breathe and like pray about it. Right. And, people always say like, just pray about it, but you actually have to start doing it. Right. For me, at least. Right. And that helped me. And I'm like, okay, wait, I see kind of where this is helping me. And then I kind of just started really looking more into just the Bible, the stories. Right. And just kind of relating it back to my life to say, okay, like how can I overcome these challenges, right? And just trusting that things will pass, like that this too will pass. And I remind myself of that daily. And I'll be honest, I mean, everything on my plate and the things that I do, I mean, there are days where I'm like, damn, I don't think I can get out of bed today, Of course, people on social media and in real life, they don't see that, but it's real, and I feel like in those moments, that's when you have to lean on your faith the most, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Amen.
Yeah.
So you actually brought up something I want to ask is you know, I get different responses. I work with small business owners, entrepreneurs, and I like to ask them if they believe in work-life balance, right? Especially the ones that have quote unquote made it. And you know, from I guess financial standpoint, but I mean, do you believe in work-life balance? I mean, is that a thing if you're really trying to make it successful, whatever that definition of success is? But
no, I knew that question was coming, Kenny. I could just see it like through your eyes. Like I just knew you were gonna hit me with something like that. No, I think the toughest thing about work-life balance is, especially as a business owner, like work never stops. Like you're constantly working. Like your phone's constantly ringing. You're constantly answering emails. There is no like 5 p.m. shut the laptop. Like that's not realistic when you own your own company, you know? But I will say, like, my friends and even guys have been weeded out based off the past couple years and being so busy, right? And I could tell you, I have one of my best friends from college. I just texted her this morning to say, like, you know, I couldn't make her wedding, right, in Italy. And I'm like, I can't make it, you know? And it's like, you're one of my best friends, you know? But she would never not be friends with me anymore over something like that, you know? Like, she's so supportive. She's so understanding. Like, she knows what I'm trying to build. So when you have the right people around you, you don't feel like it's work-life balance. You just feel like you're living. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's kind of like supportive of what you're doing. They understand. Sometimes I make plans and I cancel them just because I don't feel like going. I'm not going to be like scolded or not talked to for weeks. Like, you know, there's just this understanding. But having the right people in your corner and on your team and understanding that, like, you know, things happen and that you're tired and that you have a lot going on, and, you know, life goes through different phases, and having friends and people around you that understand that. And I think a lot of people I talk to, Kenny, that you're even referencing, even with small businesses, is like, you know, that's a huge growth part of owning your own company, is letting people go, right? And realizing like they're no longer fitting in your model, you know? And I think a lot of where people say I don't have a work-life balance because they're trying to fit people in a model that doesn't work anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And that's tough because we're talking relationships that you might have had for, I don't know, X amount of years that are, you know, you care about, you care about them, but you got to let them go sometimes too, you know? And that's tough. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, that's a great call out.
I think those last 2 minutes were maybe the best nugget of the podcast so far. Because Kenny and I have talked about that before, like, right, like as we're each growing in our different direction, right? Whether it's the gym or how Kenny's growing with his firm as well. It's like, it sucks because it comes to a point where it's like it could be your boy from high school, you know, but at the same time, it's like, are they contributing anything of value to your life in this season of life, you know? And that's some of the toughest decisions I know I've made, and I know Kenny and I can't make as well. Is like, your circle may get smaller, but if you allow it to, and the right people will stay with you, the grass is so much greener on the opposite side if that crew is the right crew moving forward, rather than keeping some stragglers along with you.
Yeah, that's like, you hit it right on the head right there, because I can even say, even in my dating life, you know, like sometimes I have to put an hour on my calendar to like remind myself to like that I have to get ready to go to dinner on a date or something. And it's no knock to that guy. It's just, it's 8 a.m. when I open my eyes, or 5 a.m. when I open my eyes. The next thing you know, it's 7 p.m. And it's just like, where did my day go? You know what I mean? And that sometimes that's just like how it is. And, you know, even in dating, right? Just be like, I'm too tired. Like, I don't want to go out. Like, you know, it's hard to find somebody that really like understands that grind, right? And understands that it's not that I don't want to, I really don't have the energy. And not that you're down here on the totem pole either. It's just, it's 7 p.m. and I already did all my energy for the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you know, even in my dating life, it's tough, but you know, like I said, just finding the right core group of people and, you know, rocking out with them. And it is a two-way street, but hey, who knows, 5 years from now, it might be 80-20, but that's also like marriage and dating too. It's never always 50-50. When has it ever been 50-50? You know what I mean? It's never 50-50. Someone's always 60-40, 70-30. I don't care what anyone says. Sometimes it's 100-0. I mean, it is what it is. You know,
that's like the biggest debate on social media, the 50-50.
Oh, it's never 50.
It's never 50-50.
It's never 50-50. Show me a relationship that's 50-50. I would love to see it. I would love to.
Yeah, the relationships that work are where the partner is able to fill in the gaps on the the off days and the days that the spouse or the partner can't make it happen, essentially, to say the least. That's what it's about the end of the day. It's picking up pieces and putting them in.
Yeah, exactly.
So real quick, continuing on the same wavelength, right? You're dropping a lot of wisdom for I think not just applying to business but life in general.
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to managing time and putting yourself first in some instances, when we're talking about pouring into younger entrepreneurs, pouring into young people in general, all right, I think that's good advice for them. But what is some other advice you could share with somebody who's trying to figure out what lane to get into, or trying to figure out, or they just started a business and navigating the obstacles and tough times of starting a new business? They have a wife or they have a boyfriend or a husband. They're struggling with managing time with them, prioritizing that relationship. What would you tell them?
It's tough. That's probably my weakest point too, I will say, because for me personally, I've been working on having a little more patience, right? I think as a business owner, we're like get it doneers, you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're fighting, let's just get this over with. Like, what's the problem? You know what I mean? Like, and it can come off as like lack of sensitivity and whatever, but it's like, can we just get this over with so that we can go to sleep and sleep peacefully? Like, you know what I mean? So I can imagine like wife, kids, there's a whole different, element and dynamic, but I really think it comes down to like communication and like really hearing your partner, right? And really like actually listening to what they're saying. Conversations are important, but also walking away and like really taking time to reflect on conversations and self-reflecting, and then coming back to a conversation and say, okay, look, like I know we talked the other day, like here's what you said, here's how you feel. And now I've had some more time to think on it and like, let's come up with a plan. Right. And I think what I hear even with my friends and my colleagues is just like having a plan that two people are sticking to then holds like accountability in a different light. And you're both working on it because you're never going to see changes overnight. It takes time. But a lot of times, like, you really don't listen and really listen to what the other person's trying to say, whether it's spending more time together, whether it's, helping more with kids or whatever it is. And so I'm really big on walking away and revisiting a conversation at a later time because it gives you time to like think. And I feel like even with business, right. And I correlate it to that too, you never want to make a decision based off emotion or in the moment, right? You need time to really think strategically about how you really feel and being able to convey that, right, to a client or to your husband or to your wife. And, putting it out on the table so that, both people can then figure out, okay, well, what are we going to do about that? And like I said, finding a partner that you can be that transparent and honest with is such a challenge, because we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different things. We all have tons of different things going on. But foundationally, even for me, like that's such a huge thing, like being able to just be that honest and transparent so that we can like work through things together. And my advice really is to like talk to each other, like really listen to what the person's saying, and try to take the emotions out of it and really hear them, and understand that nothing needs to be solved like in the moment. And I'm really big on let's come back to this, all right, we got this out. Let's come back to this and reconvene at a later day. Why are you smiling at me?
This is good.
You guys didn't like that answer? What are you?
No, I loved it.
You hit it on the nose.
Girlfriends are like, absolutely. Yes, whatever she said.
Nah, you hit it on the nose though, because throughout arguments or debates, is sometimes where you should just say, all right, let's revisit this.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can be so reactive, and we start to say things that we can't take back.
Yeah.
Right. And that can be business, that can be personal. Mm-hmm. So I think it's good advice to the mass of people of that, just sometimes calm down, just put your phone down or walk away from the conversation and just revisit it another day.
Yeah.
And when DeMichael smiles, he just agrees. So that's why
that's his tick. That's his tick. He's just like, oh damn, you just said some shit.
He know me so well.
That is funny. That is funny.
All right. So who's that? Somebody talking?
No, I was going to ask a question. So staying on the advice channel, but going kind of to the opposite, like obviously you've been in the game for 10 years now or so within the business world, and being your own boss and doing your own thing. What would you say to maybe that 18-year-old or the Bianca of 10 years ago that you've learned in your journey so far that maybe you'd go back to save yourself a couple years, or the best advice that you could provide yourself at that starting out age of a brand new entrepreneur in the game?
I'd remind myself that you don't know anything, and you won't know anything until you're 10 years later down the road, and being open to feedback and understanding that you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear, but you rather hear them early than figure them out the hard way later. And getting, doing research is important, but also like making sure that you're not spending money, right, on things that don't make sense. Like, for example, when I was building my Beach Eats app, right, I was looking at Uber Eats, I was looking at DoorDash, I was looking at things and apps that already existed, right, and kind of using existing models instead of like thinking I was going to reinvent the wheel on my own with my own app, and like that took me 2 or 3 years to figure out. And that was a lot of wasted time and energy and resources, right? But like I had to learn that on my own. My first year, I was like, I'm not going out there and delivering hot dogs. Like, I'm just going to hire people. Well, that was the biggest mistake of my career, because during that first year, I would have seen, oh, this business model needs adjusting because this app for the delivery people isn't working properly with the main app, right? Like, I wouldn't have gotten that feedback if I wasn't out there, right? I thought I was almost like too good for that job, and like I didn't need to because I own the company. Like, why would I be out there making deliveries, right? Like I can just hire people to do that. And so looking back on that, I feel like if I had checked my pride a little bit at the door and just understood that, the business owner should be able to do everything and anything, but also being open to just taking as much feedback as possible and like really just trying to build your business and also weighing what feedback to take and what not to take, like don't want to be an open sink drain of just like tell me everything and then be a yes man and do it all, right? But really like taking a step back, say, okay, like that was hard to hear, but that was good feedback. Like, do I want to incorporate that or not? And like I feel like I would have saved myself a lot of time and resources and just having more of an open mind and being more invested in that mindset like early on,
Heck yeah, for sure. Completely understand that.
Yeah. And I think at 18, it's also hard too, because you're still trying to figure yourself out, and you don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, you're naive at that point still.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. You think you came up with sliced bread. Like, seriously, you're like, oh, this is it. This is going to be it. I'm going to be a millionaire. And it's like great to think that way, but also like understanding that it does take time and you really don't know what you don't know until you go through it. I mean, every business owner, I always say like year 3 is when you really start to turn the corner, but look at what you know now in year 3 that you didn't know in year 1 and 2, right? No research or anything is going to prepare you for that, So having an open mind is important.
Open mind, patience.
Yes. Discipline.
Sweat equity.
Equity.
Here's the question that I want you to think about.
Okay.
You've done a lot in life. You're still young. You still have a lot more to do.
Yeah.
But if you're writing a book right now, somebody said, hey, Dr. Bianca, we want you to write a book about your proudest moment in life, right? What would that book contain? If you had to describe and write out what are you proudest about in your life right now over the what are you, 30 years old, 29?
28.
28 years of life?
Throw it out there, right? I mean, the concealer's working and all of those things.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
So in 28 years of life, right? If you had to be very concise about it, what are you most proud of in your life?
That's the toughest question you've asked me today.
it's going to New York Times if you have a good answer. If it's not, it's going to the library down the street by the
No. Here's the thing. I'd say truthfully, becoming a doctor was the moment when I realized, like, okay, like I can take a second and take this one in. Really. I mean, you know, I never thought not that I don't even want to say that way. I didn't think it was something that I couldn't do. I just couldn't believe it once I did it. And I realized, like, damn, it took me to just be a doctor at this highest achievement to really, like, you know, look within myself and actually feel proud of myself. And it was hard for me to admit that to myself because I felt like every time I did, like, I take my foot off the gas. It's like you drop 15 in the first half of the basketball game, and then the coach says, like, you're killing it, and you don't score another bucket for the rest of the game. And so, like, I had to get better at just telling myself that it's okay to, like, celebrate yourself and small wins. And, you know, because I never really wanted to just, like, get ahead of myself or think, like, that I was, you know, at the top, right? And I never wanted to just praise anything that I did. And then what kind of life is that, you know, where you go, you do all these things and you don't even, like, you know, realize that you are proud of yourself, right? These are hard things that you're doing, right? So I'd say, like, once I crossed that stage and I heard Dr. like Bianca Picardo, like, out loud, I was like, whoa, like, that really hit me hard because, you know, there's no doctors with my dad's last name. That's the only reason I did it. I did it because I knew I wanted that just for my family name. I didn't do it for any other reason. Everybody's like, you went to doctorate school just for that? I'm like, yeah, I did. Like, that was why I did it. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. And that's the reason why. And so once it happened and it hit me, I'm like, oh my God, like, it's over. Like, you did it. And that, I really will say, like, that was my proudest moment, but it also made me realize that, like, I need to do a better job at, like, celebrating my small wins and allowing myself to do so without feeling like I'm taking my foot off the gas.
Okay, that might go to the New York Times. You gotta sit down and consult with the panel.
It's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, because it's so hard to just, like, not be hard on yourself, especially as, like, an entrepreneur. Like, you strive for perfection and you know it's not attainable, yet you still think that it is, you know, and it's hard.
That is an amazing answer. Guys, we're coming up on an hour. I don't want to prolong it, respect their time. Any more questions you guys have?
Nothing for me. This has been amazing. Thank you again, Bianca.
Great. Yeah,
I know you guys. Yeah, always. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, 100%. Everybody say go Steelers on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Go Steelers.
You're drunk.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
2-0, baby.
How do we edit that out, guys? Can we edit that
Yeah,
out?
We're going to trust me, we're going to edit it out.
Yeah, make sure you edit that out.
Yeah,
we will. Seriously though, we wish you nothing but success as you continue to go on your journey, not only in business but also in life, and that the right partner comes along that can push your vision forward and not stifle it and hold it back. I think that's very important as well. And so, thank you again. Hopefully, we can meet in person. That'll be awesome.
And Bianca, let the people know where they can find you as well and connect with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at ChampagneMommy25, as you know. Wait, why do you guys think I was kidding? I was dead serious. And my company is Picardo Studios. So if anyone ever needs any, social media help, marketing, just even business consulting, that's what we thrive on. So you can find us on Instagram, find us on our website. We'd love to, help you out.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, guys, thank you for listening. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends as well. But until next time, have a great evening. Peace.
That really matters.